got together tonight at Coral Springs City Hall to honor Vice Mayor Nancy Metayer Bowen. The 38-year-old was found dead in her home after police say her husband shot and killed her.
She didn't show up. That's how it started. Not with a scream, not with a call to 911. Just an empty chair at a meeting that was supposed to begin at 10 a.m. in Coral Springs, Florida. The vice mayor of the city, a woman who never missed a meeting, who showed up for everyone every single time, was simply not there. Her phone rang out. Her car was in the driveway. And the people who loved her started to feel something cold creeping up the back of their necks that they couldn't explain. One of her fellow commissioners called it immediately. Something was off. She knew it in her gut. So the police were asked to go to the house, the one on the 800 block of Northwest 127th Avenue, the home that Nancy Metayer Bowen shared with her husband, Stephen Bowen. A wellness check. That's all it was supposed to be. Officers knocked. No answer. They checked the exterior and noticed something that made them pause. Damage to the walls that looked like it had been caused by projectiles. That's what the police report later said. Damage caused by projectiles. They didn't go in right away. Because without a warrant, without cause, you can't just break down the door. But here's what was happening at the same time, just miles away. Stephen Bowen, her husband of 3 years, had already driven to his uncle's house. He sat down, and he told him what he'd done. He said he'd shot his wife 3 times with a shotgun the night before. He slept in the house afterward, and then he got in his black Ford F-150 and he left. When the uncle asked him why, Stephen Bowen said 4 words. I couldn't take it anymore. 4 words for a woman who was about to announce she was running for Congress. 4 words for the first Black and Haitian American woman ever elected to the Coral Springs City Commission. 4 words for a 38-year-old environmental scientist, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a light in every room she ever walked into. 4 words. And then he asked his uncle to hold on to the shotgun for a couple of weeks. Stay with me, because who Nancy was and who Stephen was behind closed doors, and what this case reveals about the invisible world inside a marriage that looked on the outside like something beautiful, that is where this story really begins. And before we go any further, if you have ever found yourself staying up too late, falling into a case, asking yourself how something like this could happen to someone so full of life, you are exactly who this channel was made for. Hit that subscribe button right now. Click the bell so you never miss a story. And if this one moves you, like this video, not for an algorithm, for Nancy, for every woman whose story deserves to be told out loud. Let's keep going. There are people in this world who seem to have been built for a purpose. Nancy Metayer Bowen was one of them. She was a first-generation American, the daughter of Haitian immigrants, raised in Coral Springs, a suburb about 20 miles northwest of Fort Lauderdale. She went to Coral Springs Charter School, where she served as president of the Student Government Association. Even then, she was the one standing at the front of the room. Even then, she was the one who showed up. She earned a Bachelor of Science from Florida A&M University, FAMU, one of the most prestigious historically Black universities in the country. Then she went even further. A Master of Health Science from Johns Hopkins, one of the most competitive graduate programs in the world. This was not a woman coasting through life. She was climbing, always climbing, with her community right beside her. She became an environmental scientist. She led environmental justice efforts across the state of Florida. When Hurricanes Irma, Michael, and Dorian tore through communities, she was there working with the Broward County Soil and Water Conservation District, helping people rebuild. She had been recognized by the Haitian American Chamber of Commerce, recognized by the United Nations for her work on clean water access. Think about that, the United Nations. And then in 2020, she ran for city commissioner in Coral Springs. She ran against established candidates with significant name recognition. She was the outsider. She was the first. And she won. She became the first Black woman and the first Haitian American ever elected to the Coral Springs City Commission. In 2024, she ran again, and this time she ran unopposed. Nobody even tried to challenge her. She was reappointed vice mayor a second time, and in the weeks leading up to her death, she was preparing to announce a congressional run, aiming for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. She was the vice chair of the Florida Democratic Party. The Kamala Harris campaign had tapped her to lead voter mobilization efforts. Florida Democratic Party Chair Nikki Fried had seen her just 2 weeks before her death, had hugged her at a party leadership summit. Never imagining, Fried later said, that it would be one of our last moments together. People who knew Nancy describe her the same way. Over and over. She lit up a room. She made you feel like you mattered. She always asked, "What are we going to do to help people?" Her mentee, Crystal Ludor, said it this way: "Every time I talked to her, it was always, what are we going to do to help the people?" She was always selfless. This is who we are talking about. A woman ascending. A woman on the edge of something enormous. A woman whose calendar on April 2nd, 2026, the day after she was killed, was supposed to be full of celebration. But behind that public life was a private life that almost nobody got to see. And that is where the story turns dark. Nancy and Stephen Bowen had known each other for a long time. This was not a whirlwind romance between strangers. According to reporting by Le Floridian, they had known each other since their school days. Two people with shared roots, a shared history, a bond built over many years. That makes what allegedly happened inside their home almost impossible to fully process. They married in November 2022. On their second anniversary, in November 2024, Nancy posted a photo of the two of them standing in front of the Coral Springs City Seal at City Hall. She wrote, "2 years with the amazing Stephen Bowen. Cheers to love, growth, and building a beautiful life together." By the following November, their third anniversary, she posted again, 3 years of building, dreaming, and loving each other through everything. On the outside, it looked like a partnership. Two people proud of each other, public, affectionate, building something. And yet, Stephen Bowen, 40, worked as a radiology technician at Delray Medical Center. He was involved in a Broward faith-based nonprofit called Men of St. Luke. He was a Freemason. On social media, he described himself simply as God, husband, armed. He had documented, over the years, a fascination with guns, photos at shooting ranges, posts about firearms. Nothing illegal, nothing that set off alarms publicly. Here's what is documented in court records. Stephen Bowen had no prior domestic violence filings against him in Broward County, no restraining orders, no police calls to the house. His only criminal history in Broward was 2 misdemeanor drug arrests, both of which prosecutors declined to pursue. On paper, he was a clean slate, and that is one of the most disturbing things about this case, because according to those who work with Nancy, there were no visible signs of trouble at home, no one she confided in, at least not publicly. She kept her private life quiet. For a woman so visible, so vocal about justice and community, her home life was a closed door, and we have to ask ourselves, was that silent protective? Was it chosen? Or was it something else? The particular silence that can exist inside a marriage where something is badly wrong and the person suffering has nowhere to put that feels safe? We don't know the full answer to that. What we do know is that on the afternoon of Tuesday, March 31st, 2026, Stephen Bowen called his mother and told her he had experienced a panic attack at work. She later told police she had no knowledge of any marital problems between the two. He said he was going to go home and talk to Nancy about it. That night, according to the arrest affidavit, he went upstairs to their bedroom and he shot her. This is where it stops being a tragedy and becomes something that forces you to look directly at what a person is capable of. He shot her 3 times with a shotgun in their bedroom, in their bed, the bed they shared. And then he went downstairs and he slept. Let that land for a second. He slept in the same house where his wife's body was upstairs in their room. He slept, and in the morning, according to surveillance footage, he returned to the home around 9:55 a.m., possibly to do what investigators believe came next, and left again around 12:09 p.m. When officers discovered Nancy's body after the SWAT team forced entry into the home, she was in the second-floor master bedroom. She had been wrapped in blankets, then placed inside black garbage bags. And on the bed next to where she was found, investigators discovered a pillow with burn marks and string tied around it, fashioned, police say, into a makeshift silencer. This was not a crime of sudden, uncontrollable rage. The pillow tells you that. The garbage bags tell you that. The sleeping downstairs tells you that. This killing, according to the charge filed by prosecutors, was premeditated, planned, and then concealed with what can only be described as a kind of deliberate calm that is, frankly, chilling. While Nancy's colleagues were at a meeting wondering where she was, Stephen Bowen was driving to meet a fellow Freemason in Plantation under the pretense of discussing an upcoming lodge meeting. But surveillance cameras caught him handing that man a bag, the kind of bag used to carry a rifle or a shotgun. The man took the bag into an apartment. When police later recovered it, a shotgun was inside. He also removed a license plate from his truck, apparently in an attempt to avoid being tracked. Plantation's license plate readers still got a hit on his vehicle along SR7. That's how they found him, at an apartment complex in Plantation, surrounded by officers from multiple agencies. When they closed in, according to the affidavit, he said, "Oh shit, they're here for me." Not shock, not confusion, recognition. He knew exactly why they had come. And his uncle, the man Stephen had gone to first, the man he had confessed to, the man he had asked to hide the weapon, his uncle called 911. He told the dispatcher what his nephew had done. He was the one who gave police the information they needed to enter that home without a warrant. Stephen Bowen's own family turned him in. There is one more layer to the story that I have not told you yet. And it matters deeply to understand who Nancy Metayer Bowen was and what she was carrying in the final months of her life. In December 2025, just 4 months before her death, Nancy buried her younger brother. Joshua Metayer was 26 years old. He died by suicide after a years-long battle with schizophrenia. And Joshua was not just her brother. He was a survivor of the February 14th, 2018 mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, one of the deadliest school shootings in American history. He had lived through that day, but he could not outrun what it left inside him. Nancy watched her brother fight. She was there when he lost. And she was still showing up to meetings, to summits, to her community, carrying that grief in her chest, quietly, the way she seemed to carry everything that hurt her quietly. Friends say that Nancy was planning to run for Congress on a platform that included gun control, mental health, environmental justice, women's reproductive rights, all of it personal to her, all of it rooted in real loss. She was going to take the pain her family had survived and turn it into legislation, into change, into something that would outlast her. Instead, on the morning of Thursday, April 3rd, 2026, the day that was supposed to be her announcement, people gathered not for a celebration but for a vigil. The city flag flew at half-staff over Coral Springs City Hall. Flowers lined the steps. Her mentee was there. Her colleagues were there. Her community was there. And here's what I keep coming back to, the thing I cannot stop thinking about. The people closest to Nancy had no idea. A community leader, the executive director of the organization that had helped shape Nancy's political path, said this, and I want you to hear it. We never imagined that she was living in this personal hell. Personal hell. Behind a marriage that looked like love. Behind anniversary posts and photos at City Hall. Behind a smile that lit up every room. There was something happening behind that closed door that nobody saw. Or maybe, and this is where I want you to sit with me for a moment, maybe somebody did see something. Maybe there were moments. Maybe there were conversations that fell off, or silences that stretched too long, or something in the look between them that didn't quite add up. We don't know yet what the full truth is. We may never know what the precise breaking point was on that Tuesday evening. What was said, what was felt, what led Stephen Bowen to pick up a shotgun and walk upstairs. He said he couldn't take it anymore. But take what? The pressure of being married to a woman on the rise? Jealousy? Resentment? Something that had been building for years inside a relationship they both, at least publicly, described as loving? The motive has not been formally established by prosecutors. That is the truth. What happened in that bedroom, what the conversation was, what the dynamic of that marriage looked like behind closed doors. We are still waiting for those answers. What we do know is this. A 38-year-old woman who survived systemic barriers, who survived poverty and pivoting and fighting to be seen and heard, who survived the grief of losing her brother to the aftermath of a mass shooting, did not survive her own home, That is a sentence I need you to sit with. So here's what I want to ask you, and I mean this genuinely, because this is what Mystora crimes exist for. We don't just watch true crime to be disturbed. We watch because understanding these cases might protect someone, might change how we look at the people around us, might make us pay attention to a closed door we've been too polite to knock on. What do you think was happening behind the scenes in that marriage? Do you think there were warning signs that were invisible to everyone around them? Or do you think there were signs that people saw and didn't know how to name? Is this a case about a man who snapped, or about something that had been building far longer than anyone realized? And what does it say about us as a society that a woman this accomplished is visible, is celebrated, could be dying inside her own home without a single person knowing? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. This community is how we make sense of things that make no sense. And if Nancy Metayer Bowen deserves anything from us, it is that we don't look away. Subscribe to Mystora Crimes. Click the bell. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. We will keep telling the stories that matter, especially the ones that are hardest to tell. See you in the next one.